Welcome back to the Not On My Watch show with Dr. Baruch and Sister Halise. Today we have some very special guests in the studio today. Our guest in particular that we'll be interviewing is straight out of Washington, D.C. He's a business owner from humble beginnings. And I'm not going to give too much away. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our guest today. So we have in the studio with us Alkamar Malik. Welcome back.
Greetings, family. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to have you in the studio. And as you all know, Alkamar has her own jewelry line and her own book, and she also does events. Mm-hmm. So we did a couple interviews with Alkamar as well, so go on YouTube and check those out. And drum roll for our special guest.
Booyah!
Dr. Baruch.
What's up, family? Yay!
And the crowd goes wild. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me on.
So we'll be doing something a little different today.
Yes.
So you guys are always used to Dr. Baruch being on the receiving end of the questions, or maybe I'm flipping that around, the questioner. And with all his special guests coming in and sharing. But this time, we're going to be interviewing him.
This time.
So you'll get to know and learn some in-depth things about Dr. Baruch himself.
Yes. So Dr. Baruch will be our guest, and Alkamar and I will be hosting today.
There we go. I'm excited.
You look nervous.
I feel sandwiched. I'm a little shy. I'm a little reserved. I am a little nervous.
And for the record, this is impromptu. We didn't go over any questions, no discussion. So all of this is coming straight off the cuff.
That's the scary part.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. I have no idea where this is going.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be fun.
Yes.
I mean, we could start off with the usual, if you could just tell us
Mm-hmm.
about yourself a little bit,
A little bit about me. Well, I'm I'm from Southeast, properly pronounced Southeast. And that's a state in and of itself, right inside of the District of Columbia. So we don't connect up with anybody. We're Southeast, and that's what's up. And those of us who were there back in the 70s and 80s know that it was a different climate back then, and that's why we could recognize and lift ourselves up and say, yeah, I'm from Southeast. I came up out of Southeast. But I did that. I went to school here locally, graduated out of Bishop McNamara. Where's my water? But I journeyed off to Lincoln University and studied computer science and a couple of other things that I got into. Met my future wife back when I was about 17 or 18. And who she and I later brought forth 4 children, a son and 3 daughters. Very beautiful children. I'm very thankful for my children. And I've been as it relates to business and things about me, and what kind of led me into the business space that I'm in is, that's interesting. I for the first time, I thought about other things that I was doing in the business space when I was younger. And I remember when my family kind of went through a challenge, and both of my parents weren't living with me at that point. I was just living with my mother. I had to start generating income. So I remember cutting grass and raking leaves and shoveling snow.
How old were you?
I was 11 around that time, so 10, 11. And raking leaves and shoveling snow and washing people's cars and doing whatever I could in order to generate money for myself for the things that I might want to do.
Okay.
And so that got me into the entrepreneurial spirit early on in life. And it was during that time that I also made the complete conversion over to being a vegan. I'll go back a bit. Back when I was 7, there was I had a second grade teacher, and that was Miss Sherry Williams. And she was by far the most attractive woman I had ever seen in my entire life. She had a huge golden afro that was kind of brown when it got to the scalp. And all I remember her, detailed. Yeah, I don't want to go into all of that, but
At 7?
at 7.
Okay. Interesting.
He was
7,
in love with his teacher,
I
y'all.
was not only in love, but I had married her, and she was my wife. And she didn't know she was my wife, just so that I don't get her in trouble. Yeah.
Right.
But clean that up.
Be very clear about that.
She one day talked to me about what I was eating, and I was eating a pork chop sandwich, and she had nothing but negative things to say about it, but then also admonished me, please don't tell your parents, because I don't want to get in trouble. But the last thing I wanted to do was upset Miss Williams, so I folded up my little sandwich. I fasted that day, didn't eat anything, and from that day forward, I have not consumed pork as a result of her having that conversation with me, and me then recognizing that what I consume is significant, and that I should be consuming those things that are beneficial to my health and my body, and not that which would be destructive.
And your parents' reaction? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm curious to know how they responded to that one.
Yeah. Well, Dad wasn't too pleased, because he's like, who outside of this house is running things in this house? I'm the dad. I'm the father. I'm 250 pounds, 6'2" tall, or however tall he was. And he said, if my wife prepares it, if you live in this house, you're going to eat it. And I was like, whoa. So, I had to deal with okay, well, if I upset Dad, then that's probably going to mean, bad experience. If I upset my wife, well, that's probably going to be a bad experience too. So I need to sort this out. And I did. On Thursdays, we normally had pork. So on Fridays, I would take pork as some type of lunch item. And indeed, the next Thursday, my brother and sister, who are both older than I am, couldn't wait to see me sit at the table and eat this pork, because they knew, look, you're going to eat that pork. We're going to make sure of it, because they don't want me to be spoiled, because they think I'm spoiled. They don't want me to continue to be spoiled. So they were going to make sure that they let my father know, you cannot let him get away with this. So there it was, pork chop sitting on the table. I think we used to have like applesauce and pork chops and maybe spinach or some green, I can't remember, but that was like the traditional like pork chop meal. And I ate all my vegetables and didn't touch the pork chop. And my father walked by me and he said, don't get up from that table until you've eaten all your food. And I said, okay, well, I can work with that. I'm just going to sit here. And I did, and it was about maybe a half hour, maybe an hour later, I heard my mother and father kind of going back and forth. You should let him, if he decides he doesn't want to eat something that's not healthy, why don't we let him, have his way? It's my house. That's my son. He's going to do what I tell him to do. Ain't no teacher going to tell him that he should be doing something. I don't provide bad food for him. You don't cook bad food for him. He's going to eat that food. And as it turned out, about 3 o'clock in the morning, my mother woke me up. I had fallen asleep on my plate with the pork chop stuck to my head at that point, and that was the last time I touched pork.
Interesting story. So it sounds to me, just hearing that story, that your teacher wife,
Yes.
she shared that information out of concern
Yes.
for your health.
Yeah.
And you in turn, I would imagine it would take a certain type of spirit to receive that and not just brush it to the side and keep doing what you've been doing.
I don't know about any of that. I know she was drop dead gorgeous. And whatever she said, I was good with it. All right.
Okay.
Ms. Williams, here's your apple. I'm going to erase the board. I'm going to help you mark the test. I'm going to carry your bags to the car and from the car, and whatever else you might need me to do, I'm going to be here for you to do it. So you want me to stop eating pork? Consider it done. Next,
Okay.
That's how I moved.
So how did you find your way into the restaurant world?
Well, in 1995, I was living in Temple Hills, and I was finding that every time I wanted to go get something to eat, I had to go across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge to Virginia to find some healthy food.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working, because I should be able to find healthy food in my neighborhood. So that was one element. Another element was I was in the neighborhood. I was watching how everybody was getting ramps put on their homes. And I thought initially that was because everybody was lazy. So everybody in the neighborhood has just gotten lazy. We all got to walk up ramps now. We can't walk up the steps. So that was the second thing. The third was I was an engineer. and a communications engineer, and I just happened to have a project where I was working with the food industry, one of their big conferences, and I was connecting up the computers and making sure all the connectivity was good, and making sure, you know, all the computers were talking to one another. And while I was doing that, a young lady was practicing her speech. She was doing the mic check, and as she went through her speech, she got to a point where she said, if you control a man's food, you control. And I'm doing my work, and boom, 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 everything is good. But the moment she said him, so she said, if you control a man's food, you control him. I got up like a Stepford husband, walked out the door, left what I was doing. Everybody's like, where you going? What's up? Called my wife and said, we're opening up a restaurant. We have to, because we have to control the food that's going into the mouths of our people in our community.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, we're going to see more ramps being installed. And it was after that. So it was before that I had found out that the ramps were as a result of diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and so many other health failures that people were experiencing, where they needed the ramps just to get into the house because they could not walk up the steps any longer.
Wow. And so I know a lot of people know about Everlasting Life, but that is not the only restaurant you ended up opening.
That's correct. In fact, I opened up Everlasting Life in 1995 in my garage, and I served 5 households with 21 items that I was packaging. I was packaging up bulk items at that point, everything from molasses to cooking oil to wheat flour to the list goes on. And I was there until I hooked up with RAP Incorporated, a drug rehabilitation program, where they wanted to switch all of their client base over to vegan and healthy eating. So now I had this huge client, and I was getting all these products into my garage, and my garage just couldn't hold it all. So in 1996, I moved to Georgia Avenue, right next to a vegan restaurant, So Vegetarian. So I opened up right next to them and immediately had this huge customer base. And it wasn't but about a year or so after that I knew we needed to move to a larger location, which is where we moved to at Georgia and Columbia Road, where we were able to accommodate a larger customer base there.
So that's interesting. It sounds like your journey was a little different than the typical restaurateur, where most people, I would imagine, would get into the business over the passion for creating foods and creating different dishes and things of that nature. But yours came from another perspective on the health point and just wanting, your community to be more healthy. Interesting.
I would say there's an expression, and I'm probably going to jack it up, but extreme circumstances, demand extreme measures. And so I saw this as warfare. When I went around and I saw the people getting ramps put on their homes, I said, uh-oh, something's going on.
Yeah.
And I go back to the woman's speech, and she's saying, if we control your food, then we're going to control your whatever, your outcome, your health, your, psychology, your everything.
Your life.
Because food controls everything, right? So I said, okay, this is warfare. And I needed to, if we were going to be serious about establishing ourselves as a viable community, as a community of people that were interested in bettering our circumstances, one of the major things we were going to have to do is control our food. If we didn't control our food, then for me it was like, well, wait a minute. At some level, we're not serious. And I think there is where the veganism comes in, because I said, it's a stretch to get my people to stop eating a whole lot of stuff, pork and chicken and fish and whatever else, beef. But I said, we have to take this to the extreme. We have to get them all the way to this level. And there'll be some that are ready to go here. But we need to get them to this level, because it's only at this point that, they're really going to be able to receive the benefit of, this diet. And so we knew that it was going to be an educational component. So we started educating, and one of the most significant educators that we brought in, which really launched us, was Dr. Jewel Pookrum. She's out of Atlanta, Georgia. And when Dr. Jewel Pookrum spoke, and she gave us credibility when she spoke, because she always spoke at our facility or on our behalf when she came to the city, gave us extreme credibility. It immediately increased our customer base, probably by 1,000% at that point. And we knew then that we were now too big, too small for that location, which is what brought us out here to Capitol Heights. And we said, let's now be able to support a broader customer base and give them all facets. So when we came out here, it was a bakery, a juice bar, a restaurant, full-service restaurant. It was a huge grocery store. Then we had a big banquet hall, which, you all may recognize some of the names of some of the people that we've had performing there: Angela Bofield and Glenn Jones, and if you're into reggae, the Abyssinian, and a couple of other really, significant Midnight's performed here. So really significant groups have performed here when we had the banquet hall. But as it turned out, we didn't get the continued support, and maybe what I needed to do was continue my interaction and relationship with Dr. Jewel Pookrum, which it isn't that it's severed, it's just that I got caught up in running this thing, and I didn't have the time. And so things kind of tapered off, and paying a rent each month of somewhere close to $20,000 a month, we couldn't afford to have things taper off.
Yeah. So at what point were you able to get things to the point where you could develop these two other restaurants that you now have in DC, Evolve and I always say it wrong. Vigaritos? Vigaritos?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Evolve.
So a little
and
Italian and a little bit of Mexican and a little bit of vegan. So so what happened is in, I guess, 2013, 2014 timeframe, we got word of a closure right there, a couple doors down from Tacoma Station. As business was going out of business, and it was actually a TV repair shop. And I said, okay, great. This is our time to get closer to the community that we know is more inclined to engage our kind of food, our kind of, agenda. Why? Because we know in Tacoma Park there's a huge number of animal rights activists, there are a huge number of vegans just because they want to be healthy and they're more knowledgeable about veganism and why it's so important that they do that. And so we just knew that this was going to be a good look. Well, 2-3 years later, I can look back at it and say that it probably wasn't the best business decision that I made. And I now know going forward, if I should have the opportunity, I would rather go to the underserved and disserved community than go to the more affluent community that has a multiplicity of choices that are, still good choices. Yeah. Whereas over here, you don't have a whole lot of good choices. Right. In the hood, we got a whole lot of choices, but not all of them are good, and we stand out there. So if I were to do it again, or if I had to do it all over again, I would choose a community that, again, was underserved and disserved. We've got food deserts all over this area, all over the country. Yeah. And I would probably, open up my next business there.
Interesting. Which makes a lot of sense, too, because I know you have mentioned that you all do a lot of educating people. Mm-hmm. So I understand that you went to the place where people are already vegan, so you didn't have to do much in order to gain that customer base. But it makes sense that if you were to go to a community that's underserved, you're able to provide them not only the food, but the knowledge to understand why this is the food you're providing. Mm-hmm. So,
and I think the backstory is also key. I can relate to them better, because I was where they are. And I can tell about my journey from how they're going to get from where they are to where it is that, they want to be with regard to their diet, their health, and their future with regard to the maintenance of their bodies. And I don't have that same vantage point when I go to Tacoma Park, where most of those people, were born that way or, had experienced something earlier on in life, and that made them make this decision, and they are a lot more knowledgeable about it than your average customer coming in, especially over here in Capitol Heights. So it's a different demographic. Mm-hmm. But, we're working it out. We're going to make both of them over their work. But it's just going to take another kind of, strategy. Mm-hmm. And we're working on that now.
Well, much like most entrepreneurs, I noticed that the vegetarian, the restaurant side is just not the only thing that you do. There's multiple facets in who you are as a man. Share with us a little bit more about some of the things you do outside of the restaurant business.
In 2007, I got a phone call from a number out of Texas. Guy answers the phone and says, when I answer the phone, guy says, "Hi, this is Michael Baisden. Can I speak to Dr. Baruch?" So I'm laughing at this point. I said, "Who is this? Who's on the phone? Stop playing. Who is this?" "No, for real. This is Michael Baisden. I'd like to talk to Dr. Baruch." "Are you Dr. Baruch?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I got straightened up real quick because I said, this might be my 15 minutes, so let me not mess this up. And he did say, "Yep, I'd like to bring you on my show." And I said, "Okay, great. When is it?" He said, "Tomorrow." I was like, "Whoa, okay." So he wanted to bring me on his show the next day, and I was to come on and talk about diabetes. And I did just that, and I was probably on for all of 15 minutes. And so there's my 15 minutes, right? So in 15 minutes, I've got 25,000 emails, 12,000 voicemail messages, because I had just purchased a Google Voice account. So I was able to get all of these voicemails, because otherwise I was going to lose all of that. So I had just done this, so it was right on time for us to have this happen. And it was, what else did we get? We got so much interaction with that population. Wow. And I have to apologize because I haven't gotten back to all of those folks. Because that's 25,000 emails is no joke,
That's a lot. I get stressed with 200 emails.
Right.
It's that full staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm still getting, so we're still getting more the next day. And I got this 25,000 after being on the show. It was, it definitely opened up my world and allowed me to spread my wings in an area that I've wanted to, after especially being under the tutelage of Dr. Jewel Pookrum, Dr. Sabi, Dr. Africa, and so many of the other experts that are out there. I was able to now do my own thing and begin public speaking. So I launched into that space. I began to go all over the world, and specifically more so in the United States, but I did get offers outside of America as well to travel and speak on health and wellness from my perspective. And this perspective that I have, I think, is unique in the sense that I'm not just talking about eating healthy, but I'm talking about fighting back. I'm talking about this is warfare, and we're fighting back. And this is our sincere effort to save our life and our bloodline. And so it was good. It was a good marriage. However, the dynamics of syndicated radio and the need for there to be a comedian and the need for there to be a whole lot of surface, fluff, it kind of limited my ability to really get into the depth of what it is that was going on with regard to the health of our people and why this nutritional path was so necessary. So I was probably on for 3 years. And then, things kind of we went our separate ways, or as Michael Baisden would say, the train left the station and, you weren't on it. I said, okay, that's cool. But I enjoyed it for the time that I was there, and I benefited, and I'm still benefiting from it. There's still people who I say I've been on the Michael Baisden show, and, depending on where you are in America, you just think that the show was canceled in your area. You don't know that he's off the air. And it has been, it's been very beneficial, and it's allowed me an opportunity to now take this military mind, this communication engineering mindset, this knowledge of health and wellness, this love for my people, this need for us to not be terminated, because I'm watching us go through this, this process where our population is being reduced. And it allowed me to then get on a platform and teach how this was a part of this process to, help our people recover from a military campaign against us.
And I know that you said you went to school for computer science, but I'm also aware that you did study, some kind of alternative medicine, or?
Yeah, I did. I went to probably 3 institutions in America. Let's see, there was Phoenix, there was Clayton, there was CNHP, and I'm probably missing something out there, but I did the majority of my work through a school in Israel called the School of the Prophets, where I was able to learn and understand, health and wellness. And I got to even go back before that, because my grandmother was the source of a lot of my health understanding. I learned so much about garlic and onions and molasses and so many other things that are there in our homes that we think are either food accents or what have you, when in actuality they're actually medicinal and they bring wellness. And so I had that foundation, and I was just able to build on top of that foundation.
And what was the School of Prophets like?
It was, again, the agenda there was very closely aligned with mine, in the sense that these were Hebrew Israelites that are in Israel that were working against a system that had seemingly been put in place to cut us off. Cut us off physically, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. We were being cut off, and so this was an opportunity for me to interact and engage with people who had a similar agenda to mine. What do we have to do to fight this? What do we have to do to counter this energy? So it was a very a beneficial experience, and so the information was taught to us in that way, so that we would understand why, when we look at cancer and high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease, we didn't look at them as illnesses. We knew that they were nutritional deficiencies. And how then would we begin to counter that nutritional deficiency so that we can restore health to the body was the agenda, in most part, with regard to what we were being taught and now what I teach.
Out of all the wealth of knowledge that you've accumulated over the years in your industry, what do you see as like one of the main sources of our health suffering?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we suffering the most, or what can we do? If it was just one thing that you would recommend that we do to start allowing, the health and wellness of our beings to be better, what would you recommend?
That's a very good question, and it oftentimes, when I ask the question, what do you think is the most significant health challenge affecting us, most people, they pick the obvious: diabetes, obesity, heart disease. Those become very obvious. But for me, after doing my research, I realized that wasn't our biggest issue. That was a symptom of our biggest health challenge. Our biggest health challenge is a mental health challenge. We have low self-worth. And when you have low self-worth, you listen to low-grade conversations, low-grade music, look at low-grade television, consume low-grade food, engage in low-grade activity across your whole entire life. And that's just part of it, because you don't see yourself as being worthy, or you don't feel like you need to invest the energy into really doing anything of any substance to help yourself. And so that would be the first and most significant area. So that changed, and as I learned that, I changed my approach to teaching people about health and wellness. That, okay, so it's one thing to teach a person, but how many people don't know that a garden salad is healthier than a hamburger? Most people know that. So then I didn't need to reteach that. What I needed to teach them is how they could love themselves enough so that they could see that as food and that as a toxin.
Did you find that it's a conscious low self-worth, or is it more so something that is subconsciously embedded in us?
Yeah, I would say that probably a little both, because subconsciously it's being embedded in us at a very young age, and it's coming from so many different angles. It can't be a lie. It must be the truth. And then when you have the evidence, and the evidence is that people are doing the things that result from having a low self-worth, you say, well, it must be true. It must be true. Then it's unacceptable for me to then eat healthy. And that came out when I was in corporate America, too. I went to a big corporate dinner. I was a #1 sales rep in the company, doing real well financially, and I sat next to the president of the company, a multimillionaire. And the whole conversation, after I sat next to him, he got his 40-ounce steak, and I got my garden salad. He was like, well, what's wrong? Y'all didn't give him his food. And I said, no, this is what I'm eating. He said, that's all you're eating? You come here and you're going to spend, what, $2 on a meal, and I'm spending whatever? No, you got to get a meal. What else can we get you? I said, no, I'm good. I'm going to eat this salad. I'm good. And, his whole conversation after that was, well, are you Muslim? Are you, what are you? What makes you think that, come on, man, where did this come from? Because this comes from somewhere that you would want to eat like this. And I'm sitting there eating, I'm the multimillionaire eating this steak. And obviously I know that what you're eating is healthier than what I'm eating. And so we know that this is a campaign directed and targeted. When you look at the commercials, you see which commercials are being targeted at which populations of people. You know, as you switch through the channels now, you get a chance to see, oh, this is what they're marketing to, you know, suburbia and the folks with the big $500,000 and $600,000, $1 million homes. We see what they're marketing to them. And then we also see what they're marketing in the hood. And so, you know, I saw it, and you can see that there is that embedding of that consciousness, but we perpetuate it by celebrating it.
Yeah.
So we celebrate like this thing called soul food and pig feet and pig intestines and all kinds of stuff that we celebrate, when we need to learn to break that cycle and realize that on that road we're gonna find ourselves, you know, continuing to depopulate the earth.
I remember reading one time that the vast majority of the Earth's population don't eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to kind of you know, be in our little square, little dot on the Earth.
Yeah.
And you know, forget that, you know, we share this Earth with billions.
Yeah.
Like 6 billion people right now.
That's right.
We don't always
the
think
vast
far
majority of the
outside
people on Earth do not eat meat.
Well, when you go to a developing world country, and I had the opportunity to travel to Tanzania, the reasoning for them not consuming the meat is not what you would think. It's not that they're saying this is not healthy for us. It's because they don't have refrigerators. You know, they don't have gas pipelines piping gas to their homes, so they got to use propane. They got to pay for that propane, or however they do it. They got to go out back and, you know, stroke up a fire. And so there are things that are contributing to the ease with which we engage this American lifestyle that just aren't there. Mm-hmm. So they don't have it. And as a result of that, yeah, they it's not a part of their culture. And they don't have the health challenges that we have. But even still, you know, and it isn't that I back away from veganism. I'm a vegan. I'll be a vegan for the rest of my life. But I do recognize that what people are eating in their developing world countries, the meat, the vegetables, the fruit, everything that they're eating is far healthier than what we're eating here in the United States of America.
Yeah.
And that's a lecture, but it gets into the history of the food industry, the history of the chemical industry, the history of the medical industry, and how you have some major players that have contributed to the development and the agenda of all of those industries. Yep. And those industries seemingly gearing their energy towards the separation of the classes. So there's certain classes of people that we will sell this crap to, and there's certain classes of people that we will sell this really high-end healthy food to.
Like for instance, chitterlings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that sucks that the healthier food is so expensive. Like that.
Well, that's
frustrating.
That's what we're led to believe, that the healthier food is more expensive. But if you have a backyard or if you have a window, you have the capacity to grow your own food.
That is very true.
It will only need water, you know. Otherwise, it's got sunlight, it's got air, you got dirt already, and you got a seed in the ground. So all you need to do is water it and weed it, and now you've produced whatever, tomato or watermelon or whatever it is that you want to produce.
Right.
So the notion and the misunderstanding that we have that healthy food costs more is definitely a misunderstanding.
Well, I agree that we definitely have the ability to grow our own food. Mm-hmm. But I'm just talking in terms of, like, you know, McDonald's, you get a burger for $1, but if you want a bag of apples, it's $12.
Right.
You know, like that kind of thing.
There's a reason for that.
It is, and it's just it sucks.
Yeah, well, the reason for it is because, again, when I talked about those corporations and those government agencies that have come together, there's an agenda to make lower quality food more affordable, even though it may be more expensive to process. So this low quality food is more affordable because it gears the individual, the consumer, and it guides them down the road of them needing the pharmaceutical and medical industrial complex to support them for the rest of their life.
Flowing and running.
Yep.
Well,
and it drains the resources. So you're draining the resources of these families. You figure a family that's got a mother or a grandmother who's now in their 70s or whatever, and they've gotten sick, and they're going to spend all the money that they can to give grandma radiation, chemotherapy, surgery, hospice, and all the rest of that. And then you look up and you got a $350,000 bill, and that's what grandma's house was worth. So it's gone.
It's crazy. Well, going back to your story and your history as a business owner, and I know Alkamar being a business owner and anyone who owns a business knows that it doesn't come easy. So I have two questions for you. One is, at what point, what happened like when you hit your low? Like, at what point were you maybe at the moment where you're like, I don't know if I can continue doing this? Like, what was your most difficult challenge? And then to accompany that, what was that moment that turned the light back on for you? Like, no, did someone say something or did something happen that encouraged you to keep pushing and keep moving forward with your businesses?
Okay, good question. So the low was the first day that I opened up. When I made $18. So after leaving corporate America and I kind of transitioned from corporate America into doing this, but when I opened up this location in Maryland, we made $18. And to make $18 after you've spent over $1 million to build a complex,
wow,
and you've got all of this going on, you're leaving corporate America, you're going to invest all your time and energy and effort into this, and you make $18, you look in the rearview mirror real quick. And you're like, you know what? We might need to change this up. Could I walk away from all of this now? Of course, I couldn't. But that was a very low point. Another low point is when the mall went through a transition of ownership. And the new owner decided that he wanted to put an extreme amount of pressure on us to pay our back rent. We had fallen in arrears. Business was not that successful for us out here. And he gave us, I believe it was maybe about 15 days to get ourselves together and get him a huge amount of money, which I knew I couldn't come up with, and I couldn't figure out what to do. So I just was riding this wave and just like, okay, I guess we're about to lose it all. And as it turned out, two things happened. One I knew of, the other I didn't. One was the sheriff was here. There were about 50 homeless men sitting in the parking lot waiting to come in and move all of my stuff. I don't know where they were going to move all this stuff to, because this is only 1/3 of the business that I had. I had 2/3 more space.
Wow.
So they were going to move all of this stuff and put it out somewhere. And the sheriff is there, and he's saying to me, he said, "Yeah, we got to go forward with it. This is an eviction. It's on the books. We got to, I've got a court order here to pursue and follow through with this eviction." And the guys are walking through. The sheriff is walking through, and he's looking at all the stuff. He said, "Man, it looks like you're ready to be in business." I said, "Yeah, I'm in business." He said, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "It's tough. It's tough. I sell vegan food, and and the community's just hasn't embraced us like we need them to as of yet."
Yeah.
He said, "Man, this is crazy, man. This is the worst eviction I will ever participate in." So then he goes back and he sits in his car. I said, "Well, what can I do to stop this?" He said, "Well, the only thing that you can do to stop it now is pray for rain, because it's now 9:30, and at 11 o'clock, if I get rain on my windshield, I'm driving off. If not, we're going to evict everything. We're moving everything out." So I did just as he said. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and prayed and prayed. And sure enough, it was just a sprinkling. No clouds in the sky. It was just a sprinkling of rain hit his windshield. He said, "You see that right there?" I said, "Yeah, I see it." He said, "Yeah, all right. See you later." Wow. Pulled off.
Wow.
And that was done.
That's an amazing story.
And so that was another very low point for me, because I was like, am I about to lose all of this? Is it all going to go? Like, tomorrow, where's my income? By then we were making a reasonable amount of money, but not enough, again, to afford the, exorbitant expense that it takes to run this and to maintain the rent and so on. But after that, we negotiated with the owner and reduced our space, and then negotiated how we were going to pay back the back rent.
Okay.
And so we were able to recover.
And here you are.
Here we are.
How long ago was that? How many years later?
2004 is when that was.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Still going strong.
So that's a testament to prayer.
Yep.
Yeah. And faith. And,
Yeah.
all right.
And rolling up your sleeves and getting it done.
Yeah.
And the right sheriff
the
coming
support
in
of
here
others.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Because
support of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it was a different sheriff, who knows what that could have turned out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything was aligned. Okay, so I told you what happened that I knew happened,
Yes.
and that was the rain. What I didn't know happened is that I had called everybody. I called the governor. I called the county executive. I called every office I could, trying to figure out what can y'all do to stop this. This is crazy. You can't let this happen. Not in Prince George's County, where the health is so bad, and we're the only healthy food business in the region.
The area, yeah.
So as it turned out, then Governor Ehrlich was in office, and the people in his office had put a stop on it.
Okay.
So even though the rain came,
Yeah.
they said that they had stopped it. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And I didn't learn that until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that was even something that was happening behind the scenes. But it was good to know.
Yeah.
You need to turn this into like a film.
It's funny because I went
another business.
Right. I went to a meeting with Governor Ehrlich, and I dressed up in a broccoli suit. We have a broccoli, what they call mascot. Yeah. And I went into his meeting, and he immediately, everybody, and I went in friendly. I went in because we were talking about food, but they didn't know that the guy's coming in the broccoli suit. So I show up in the broccoli suit, and he immediately calls the police. And the police are right there. So he's like, boom, 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 Corporal so-and-so. And then my friends who were in the meeting said, no, it's okay, he's with us. He said, and Governor Ehrlich did not calm down until finally I took it off. I took the top off of it, and he saw me, he recognized me. He's like, oh, okay. But yeah.
Why was the broccoli suit so threatening?
Because he's like, I don't know when this was, but it was probably, it was after 2001. So it was after all of the 9/11.
Okay. So it's just something out of the usual, which caused a red flag.
Yeah.
So this place seems to be, and I get a lot of people. So I'm here 4 days a week myself. And you've been so gracious to open up your business to people like me, other small businesses, to kind of piggy bank or ride off of your coattail as we build our own businesses. So I for one want to thank you for that. So I do see and talk to a lot of the customer base that come through the door, and one of the things that I hear often is the energy in this place. People always say, I like this place. There's something about this place. The energy is good. The spirit is high. And what would you attest to that? Why do you think that is? So this is such a special place for so many.
Well, I'm going to tie it into the second part of the answer that I was supposed to share with you, because Halise asked me, what was the low and what was the high? Okay. So I do agree that there's an energy. There's an energy that we project out of this space, because this is, although it is a business, and according to the tax code, it has to then pay taxes, and according to my creditors, I need to make some money so I can pay them off. So we do have to generate income. It is a place where people know that, one, I eat the food that is prepared here, and they know me, they know my spirit, they know, the level of integrity that I bring to this whole industry, this whole food industry in particular, that, there's a level of comfort. And not only that, but then you see the number of people that have walked through these doors with 4th stage or 3rd stage cancer or high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and now are regular customers and bragging and boasting about how they have excellent health now. So, that's kind of that high that I was going to share with you, that, when people hear those stories, the motivation to come here is a little different. It's not that, I'm hungry and I just want to go get something to eat. No, I'm hungry and I want to get some food that gives life.
Yeah.
And so a part of that high and a really good moment is when one day I was sitting out front, and I was just sitting in there, not really doing anything, just looking out in the parking lot. And the number of people that came by me without being connected to one another or coming at the same time, who thanked me. Hey man, thank you for having this business here. And I'm like, whoa, this is deep, and it kept happening and it kept happening. And I was like, whoa, this is really a powerful, period of time for me. Because you think, at some point you start You're just looking at the numbers. Okay, we spent this amount, we made that amount. Okay, great, we can make it to the next month, and we keep on going. But when you realize that you're touching people's lives, and when people recognize, and they've heard my story, so they know I left a pretty cushy job. I was doing real well in corporate America, and I left that to do this because I felt like if I didn't do it, one, I wasn't going to have an option myself, nor were the people that were around me who looked like me, they weren't going to have an option. So that was a very moving moment. And I want to jump over to you, Al-Kumar, that, I know how important it is to incubate. And some of us have ideas, some of us have, visions for ourselves with regard to business. And so Everlasting Life, I've always wanted to have it and let it be a place where people can come and incubate their ideas. I'm ready to go out and start selling, light switch covers, with African American images on them. I've had those people come through. I've had African clothing, African masks. I've had so many different vendors come in here and offer their wares. And, so we try to make it affordable for them to incubate their business and their business idea, to work out the kinks, to get a flow, to get a customer base, and possibly then, branch out, launch, and do their own thing at some point.
It's so community oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the village.
Mm-hmm.
The village. It's a village feel and mentality here.
Yeah.
So.
Most definitely. So what can customers expect to find here at Everlasting Life outside of food?
Okay. Well, what we do here outside of food, of course, is the information. So we used to run videos every day, all day long. It was health videos running constantly on our televisions. We decided to give people a break because at some level that was kind of beating them over the head.
Yeah,
but it was effective for those people who, obviously would want to purchase a video that they saw running. So we knew that it was working, but, we've taken a break from that. But so we know that the information is here. A body of people that are really concerned, we hire people that can relate to our struggle and our charge and our responsibility. So we bring people in. But we also, as now this year, we really put greater emphasis on an idea that I've had for years. And we're now, with the help of Sister Al-Kumar and others, we're doing more vending opportunities for others. So we'll set up our dining area so that vendors can come in, and we'll have 10 to 15 vendors set up where our customers are coming through and their customers are coming through and checking out us for the first time. But that kind of cross-pollination is happening when we engage in that way. And I would say another big part of this, of course, is where we're sitting right now with the establishment of eLife Media. That we created this medium because just like we knew we needed to control the food, we need to control the content of the information that is getting out and getting into the ears and the eyes of our people. Mm-hmm. So we created this for that as a vehicle so that we can control that and begin to put some more positive images and thoughts into our people's heads.
Awesome. So what's a fun fact? Tell us something we don't know.
A fun fact.
Yeah,
wow,
fun.
It's so serious, and now I got to go into the fun space.
Yeah,
Woo.
switch it up.
Let's see. What would be fun? That's tough. As a business owner, it's tough. We've had so many tough times, and it's always every day. So and so didn't show up to work today. Okay, so and so quit. Okay, the order didn't get put in on time. Okay, the delivery didn't happen today. There's so many things that happen on a continual basis. Every day is like a new day. I know I need to do a TV show so that people can understand what it is that goes on that you don't see, because you think it's only the food and it just magically appears.
And you're always so even-tempered. I mean, for you to be having so much going on in your world, and you just stroll through here and just smile and
and I think that's important in maintaining a successful business, because if I'm moved, and I've had, from the guy who comes in and says, yeah, you need a new air conditioning unit, it's going to be $35,000. And I'm sitting at 3,500.
Right.
No, 35,000. And I'm looking at the thermometer on the wall, the thermostat on the wall, and it's saying 89 degrees. And he's saying 35,000. I'm saying, well, is there another unit that we could get? No, that's the one that's going to replace and give you the right amount of cooling in the space that you have now. Is there a better price? Is there somebody else who might be able to, compete with you and get us? No, you need to get this done right away because it's about to be a heat wave in 2 weeks, and it's going to be over 100 degrees for the next month. And that was back maybe a year ago. I was like, whoa, this is incredible. So, when you go through those challenges, when you say a fun fact, the fun facts become, we made it through the day. It was a good day. Didn't nothing break. Everybody showed up. We had food to the end of the day. No customers were complaining. We got no bad reviews on Yelp. That was a good day.
That's not a fun fact, though.
That's a fun fact
I
for
meant
me.
something about you.
Oh, about me personally?
Yes.
I don't know.
For example, I was born with 12 fingers.
Okay.
That's a fun fact.
I can't
Weird.
claim that one.
What do you like to do when you're not here or you're off time?
Yeah, that's
If you
good.
have it.
Yeah, I do the vacationing thing. I don't mind vacationing. The last vacation I took was 2013. 2013, I took a cruise. It was like an 8-day cruise, and that was cool. Where did we go? Jamaica and let's see, what's the other place that are Bahamas? And what's the nice island in the Bahamas?
Montego Bay.
In the Bahamas. No, that's Jamaica, Montego Bay.
Nassau,
Bahamas. So we went to Nassau. That was the first time I gone to Nassau, Bahamas. I had gone to some other places in the Bahamas. Where else did we go? It was 2 other places, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed it because I was offered the trip for free because I spoke on the cruise.
Awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
The perks of the job.
Yes, yes.
So is vacationing one of the things that contributes to you being able to remain so zen, working in such a hectic environment?
Probably not, because that was the last vacation.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I see this as again warfare, and I see myself positioned as somewhat of a we'll call it a general. And I've got to be calm for the people, So just 2 days ago, the electricity went out in the building because an automobile crashed into one of the transformers. And I was like, we're going to miss a huge amount of money today, but it's okay. Give everybody a day off, let them go shopping or do whatever they want to do, and it'll be okay. We'll work it out. But it still doesn't change the fact that come Monday is payroll, and Monday is rent. And that's a huge, negative on the bank account, but we're going to make it through. And, I think being successful, seeing those people get better, seeing people get healthier, seeing people come to you who are on their deathbed, and then they show up as a customer walking through your door, and it's like, I recognize you, but I don't really recognize you. And then they tell you their story, and then they credit you with everything. And they say, you're the one that, because we were going to do the regular traditional medical thing, but everybody's dying from that. We came to you, and we did exactly what you told us to do, and now our mother's healthy.
I heard a guy the other day, overheard him talking to you, and he held up his greens, and he said, "See, Doc, see,
yeah.
I'm taking my greens. I'm taking my greens per your request."
That's it. It's our pharmacy, but it's not a PH pharmacy. It's FARMACY pharmacy.
Pharmacy.
And our prescription is healthy food, so we provide them. And not everything here do we suggest that everybody take. If you got an issue with diabetes, we're not going to have you eating cake and macaroni and cheese all day long. But for those of you who want to eat healthier, there's definitely an offering here at Everlasting Life and Evolve and Vigoritos where we offer healthier food options on your road to achieving better health.
It was just so they know that the cake and the macaroni and cheese is all sugar-free and dairy-free.
It's dairy-free, but there's definitely sugar in that cake.
Cane sugar.
It's cane sugar. It's cane sugar.
So it's like the good
sugar.
form of sugar.
Yeah. It's not the sugar from the company that starts with the D.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see.
Form of sugar.
Yeah.
If you had to, let's see. If you had to suggest one book, one documentary, and one place to travel, what would you say?
Good question.
I'm going to start with the last.
Okay.
I traveled to Tanzania.
Tanzania.
And when I went to Tanzania, I saw nothing but people that looked like us. And it was so peaceful. And the people were so giving and warm and friendly. And whatever they had, it was yours. And whatever you had, you could keep it. You know, it was a different kind of energy over there that I had never experienced from a human being before. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, how can you all not have anything and want to give me what you got? And you know I'm coming with more than you got.
Wow,
And you still want to give, you know, and don't want anything from me. And if I offer something to you, it's insulting.
Wow.
So I would say definitely travel to Tanzania. Maybe there are some other Eastern African countries where, you know, you might journey and get a similar experience. As far as reading a book, wow, there's a lot of good books out there that I've read. I don't know that I can
It's
zero
always hard
in.
to pick one, right?
Yeah, I don't know that I could zero in because I've read books on spirituality. I've read books on business. I've read books on health and wellness. I've read books on, you know, the list goes on, relationships, you know, and all of them have had an impact and have helped to shape me. You know, I can think of some books that I reference a lot, and one of them is Sun Tzu's Art of War. And I can't say that would be the one that I would recommend, but that book is a pretty compelling book, and it has compelled me to make some significant decisions in my life
Yeah, I'd agree
going
with
forward.
And the documentary.
The documentary, wow, oh boy. That
There's
was
a lot of
tough
those,
one,
too.
For somebody who doesn't look at television, see, I stopped looking at television when I was like 9.
Oh, wow.
And,
That's awesome.
So now I look at television at my other restaurant just because it's on. But I don't do a lot of, you know, viewing of television. But we've got a lot of really good documentaries that we show here at the restaurant.
And you sell them
And
too.
sell, yeah.
You sell them here as well.
I would say maybe because of my interaction with him, maybe Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Although it's not a documentary, it's more of a marketing piece, but it definitely gives a lot of good facts in it. I would lean towards Dr. Joel Wallach's Dead Doctors Don't Lie as a really good source to make people have that light bulb moment where they say, now let me change, with regard to health anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I rarely watch TV myself, but I did catch that next Netflix 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Avery,
That's
sister,
deep.
Ava, that did that documentary.
How they show the changes with the time, and then how many more people become imprisoned over time.
Yeah,
And
it's just so many. It's so many good
There's a lot.
documentaries out there right now.
What is it, 5%? We're 5% of the world population, but like 40%
25% of the
25%
world's
of incarcerated.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And that's just one area.
in the land of the free.
Yeah. So again,
Yeah.
that takes me back into the space where I'm at. That I know that food contributes to a mindset that would make somebody choose this path rather than that path.
Yeah. It's all a continual flow and cycle. So if you're healthy physically,
Yeah.
it contributes to
Right.
mental health and spiritual health as well.
Right.
Yeah. That's
And the
it.
mental conditioning is real.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it is definitely real.
And purposeful.
Psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To where we don't even, like the sister we were saying, we don't even realize that we are being conditioned subconsciously.
Right.
Yep.
We go through our day to day, and because everybody else around us is doing the same thing we are, we assume that we're not doing anything that's improper or inappropriate.
And we
And
talk
that's key.
about the system not working. Oh, it's working. It's working for someone.
Perfect.
Just
Yeah.
not
Well-
working in our favor.
Well, what I
Right.
found- What I have found, and this is something that you all probably have both heard me say, is that the strategy with which our enemy, if we have one, and I think we do, the strategy with which our enemy has chosen to keep us from ever, kind of elevating our situation, is they've made all of the solutions repulsive. All of them are repulsive to the extent that when I talk to somebody about eating healthy, they're like, You got to be out your mind, brother. You mean I'm going to stop eating fried chicken? Or when we talk about what we're going to do to change the next generation of youth, that we're going to need to homeschool? Whoa, wait a minute, brother. I'm working a job because I want to get a nice car and I want to have a nice house. And so we sacrifice our future, we sacrifice our children so that we can have this momentary, a pleasure. And I'd say across the board, in every instance, what I have used to help me make the best decision is I use the qualifier. I say, okay, what would my enemy want the least for me to do? So which would he want me to do the least? So I go down and I do my inventory and I say, well, he would definitely not want me to eat healthy. And, I saw that in corporate America where people are like, what are you doing, man? What's wrong with you? You didn't get the memo? You're supposed to be eating crap like everybody else. And, across the board, you look at what's going on in our community, from relationships to education to incarceration to just the economics, the social conditions, you go across the board and you realize that something's wrong everywhere and the solution is repulsive.
Yeah. I often say if you just decide to, whatever you're doing, just do the total opposite, more than likely you'll then be heading in the right direction.
That's right.
Just go the total opposite of what you've been conditioned and trained to do.
That's
with
it.
any facet of your life.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or at least question it, Why am I thinking this way?
Mm-hmm.
And then dig a little deeper to figure that out.
Well, when you have somebody who has positioned themselves so that they can control the definition of everything, so they have the power to define, so they're defining what's good and what's bad, what's right, what's wrong.
The language of all of that.
And when they're clever with what they're doing, to the extent that they know how to hide themselves in the place that you actually seek solutions from. So you think about America. America's gone to many countries and destroyed them and then extended a hand and said, well, I'm here to help you.
So they create the problem and then come with the solution to it.
And that's what we see happening, but it's hard to get around it, especially when the whole world has now been is now revolving around this almighty dollar. And when somebody's controlling the dollar and you need the dollar in order to, or at least you've been convinced now that you think you need the dollar so that you can eat, so that you can do whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're seeing at the same time, you're seeing the world going through a shift. Not people that look like us, but other people are going back. They're saying, you know what, I can build a house for $25,000 that might be as big as this room. And it's going to be able to accommodate my family, and we're going to be able, because we don't do anything inside the house anyway but sleep. So we can leave the house. If we want to entertain, we can go someplace else and entertain, but we're going to build a house for $25,000 and support ourselves. And now you think about what we were doing in the underdeveloped countries. We had very inexpensive accommodations. I mean, like literally, let's drag that piece of whatever over here and put that on top, and we're going to build some stuff around it, and it's going to be home. Or we'll do mud, we'll build a mud hut. And,
but be happy and be more healthy emotionally, and physically, and all that. It was funny. I had just asked a question on social media last night. I said, it's interesting to me how those who benefit the most from like the Christmas holiday don't even celebrate Christmas.
Right. They don't.
When you think about the Jewish community is about 85 to 90% of retail owned by Jewish community, and they don't celebrate Christmas, but they benefit.
That's right.
From the holiday.
Yep.
And so it's just, I find that just so fascinating how we don't seem to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
To get it enough to change course so we could then benefit too.
Well, something else that we do, we've decided now to take the mantle away from those who have been injuring us for years And as opposed to creating a remedy, we've taken the mantle and we said, no, I got this.
And do it better.
Right.
Do it better than those who created it.
I will destroy the economy in my own community. I will destroy the relationships in my own community. I'll destroy the education in my own community. I'll destroy the families in my own community, the economics in my own community. So we look at this and we've taken the mantle ourselves.
On autopilot.
Yeah.
And we brag about it too.
And we beat our chest when we're successful
proud.
at destroying one of our own.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that is yet to be done. And I'm not going to stay just in the food space. I want to get really deep into this media space. So I look forward to being able to affect more lives. As the food, you have to come into the restaurant to get it, but you can get this information. This video can be viewed in every country in the world right now. You could be looking at it from another country right now, and this information is getting out. So I do see this as a platform that I'm going to grow and really invest a lot of my resources and energy in, because information is food, and people do consume it. And there's information that will give you power and will move you forward, and there's information that will take you backwards. And we want to be a part of that forward motion.
Yes, sir.
So, Alkamar, did you have any more wonderful questions we could ask Dr. Baruch?
No, I believe that is it for me. I mean, I do know him a lot better now that I've
I've learned a lot today.
Yeah. Good information.
Well, you pretty much answered my final question, which was going to be, what's next for Dr. Baruch? So you're going to be venturing further into the media outlet.
Yeah.
So if customers are interested in, getting in contact with you or having a consultation with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Let's see. I'm going to give out a phone number and an email address and a web address. The phone number is 330-BARUCH-1. That's 330-227-8241. Again, 330-227-8241. The email address is getwell@drbaruch.com. That's getwell@drbaruch.com. And the website is IamNotAMedicalDoctor.com. That's www.IamNotAMedicalDoctor.com.
I like that one.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Baruch, and thank you so much, Sister Alkamar, for joining us for another informational and just wonderful episode of the Not On My Watch show with Dr. Baruch and Sister Halise. It has been an honor getting to know the owner of Everlasting Life and of eLife Media himself, Dr. Baruch. And once again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to the guests in the studio. Tune in next Tuesday for more from the Not On My Watch show. Take care.